Oh, it's freaking out. System's freaking out, man. It
Because I thought it was flawless. And we even took a break last week off, and I thought it was. Did it not work well on your end?
no. Well, I've got 50,000 windows open here, so
Oh yes, you
it's
are
like
a you
it's
are a guy. That Skynet likes you. They can monitor you from every window.
that's right. That's
No
right.
doubt. That's crazy.
That's right. AI and has invaded my life, and I don't know. I'm kind of liking it. I'm kind of loving it actually. It's been
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Not me, by the way. But yes,
Mr. Pen and Paper. Yeah,
I can. Yes, I like old. I'm an old school guy, even though I
yeah.
may not look old. I don't know. I feel old someday, but it's old school. But anyway, happy Friday, fun day has rolled around again. Welcome to the Creative Real Estate Investing uh, Mastery Podcast. And so, Mr.
Just
Kaufman,
forgot
how
the
are
name of
you?
it there.
I did. We did. It's what's a little
It's
long.
so
Hindsight being 2020, maybe we should have shortened that a little bit. But
yeah, yeah.
how are you doing today, Mr. Kaufman?
I am well, sir. I am. I've always told you, I've still kind of from some of the kind of the hangover, like from the days when I had a W-2. I still look forward to the weekends, and so today's no different. I'm still looking forward to the weekend, and it's not because I'm not willing to work weekends or anything like that. It's because I get to be with family and friends and stuff on the weekends because most of those folks do work. So um, I am looking forward to it. It's going to be a good weekend. How about you?
It's all good. Got it's a happy hour day. Actually, I'm going to see if we can get some investors in our real estate fund actually this evening, and so we've been just working on that. Man, I like to get my fun and my business sometimes like together, especially at happy hours, because I like to kick down a cold brew every now and again
Yeah,
and talk business, shop, and life and all that. So
yeah. Well,
hopefully that'll happen this afternoon. So
yeah, I hear you. Well, let's not waste a much time here. I want to go ahead and bring on our guest here. Um, now, just for disclosure, we have never actually spoken with our guest today. We've kind of been going through through her,
emails, yeah.
yeah, going through emails and her assistant and everything like that. So it's been a this is you are going to the audience, that is, you are going to meet Mallory at the same time we are meeting Mallory. So we're just going to give this a shot. You guys kind of know we kind of shoot from the hip anyway. So let's do it. Let's bring in Mallory, and this is Mallory Meehan. Hey,
Hi
Mallory.
guys.
Hey,
Hi,
hey.
Mallory.
Thanks
Now,
for having me.
oh,
Thanks.
definitely. Thanks for coming on. For sure.
You bet.
We've kind of, I don't know if you've gone out and looked at done any research on us or not, but we kind of we started off having a lot of guests in the beginning, and I love having guests on. I love it. Like it's just it takes they always take different twists and turns, and quite honestly, if I'm really being honest, it's an easier conversation because we're not talking into the void. We get to actually have a conversation with someone. So we're super glad to have you on.
Thank you.
Now, I understand that you're an attorney as well, correct? A real
I
estate.
am.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to be my first question is, first of all, why in the heck did you choose to be an attorney? And then secondly, what got you interested in real estate? In the real estate, are you an actual, like, is that your area of practice? I'm assuming that's
Yeah.
your area of practice, right?
So I'm actually a full-time professor, and so
Okay.
I teach real estate at Penn State University, and so I decided to become an attorney because I graduated undergrad during the Great Financial Recession,
Oh,
and having an interest in real estate, at that point in time, it probably wasn't the best idea to get into real estate. So I decided to hedge my bets and go back to school. And so I actually got my law degree and my MBA simultaneously and graduated, started working in a commercial brokerage firm after school, and then transitioned into academia, where I've been teaching now for 9 years. And what's nice about it is that I have a lot of flexibility with my schedule. And so right now I only teach 2 days a week. And so I'm still able to have my own real estate investing. So I do a lot of consulting with people that are looking to do creative financing. They're looking to do, for sale by owner, anything like that. I also help business owners buy and sell businesses. And so that's another area that I help people out with. And I've recently acquired a franchise myself. And so I'm now entering this different realm of not just real estate owning, but now business owning. So a little bit of everything.
That's awesome. What do you mind me asking? What area did you move into? What, in fact, feel free to plug your franchise. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
If
What's the business? Yeah, what's the business franchise? Now that you brought that up, we're all
yeah. So the business is called Everline Coatings. It's a parking lot maintenance company. And so we do services for, property management companies and basically anybody who owns parking lots. And we do line striping, crack filling, pothole repair, seal coat, basically like the dirty work that nobody else wants to do. And I wanted that because it's still related to real estate with my connections with property management and that sort of thing. So we have that now in the central Pennsylvania area. And if anybody is in that area and looking to have some work done, contact me.
What I'm sorry to get so in the weeds on this, but what cities, like what areas do you operate
So
in?
I'm based out of State College, which is where Penn State is located. And so it's basically, if you looked at the center of Pennsylvania and you circled like a 60-minute radius around State College, we service the entire area.
Okay, perfect. And the name of the company, in case anybody wants to I actually do have some friends in that area, so
okay, awesome. It's called Everline Coatings.
Everline, okay.
Yes.
And it's a franchise, you said.
It is. So they started in Canada and moved their way to the U.S. and now they're expanding pretty rapidly. It's a pretty rapidly growing franchise right now.
Awesome, good deal.
So I'm curious, Mallory. So you teach real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the titles of your courses? Is it real estate 101 for dummies? Is it like what's the titles of the courses? Do you have like advanced things that you do as well? I'm curious as to the approved curriculum at a pretty prestigious university like Penn State.
Yeah, so we actually have an undergrad degree in real estate. And so the way that I pose it to students, I tell them that they're essentially getting a finance degree, but they're looking at a tangible asset. And so we focus on real estate as being, something as an alternative investment versus stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And so we do underwriting. So the title of my course is Real Estate Fundamentals. And then I also teach a real estate risk and analysis. And so with those, we cover how to analyze a market, what is happening, what factors are going to influence different things within, different areas of the country. And then we look at what are the financing components? How can we finance this? What happens if interest rates change and you have adjustable rate mortgages? What if you wanted to do creative financing? I do bring that into my course because I like that aspect, and students can actually get into it and not needing to wait to have a large amount of capital. And then I follow up with the law, and understanding the legal implications of owning real estate, how to protect your assets through diversification, through asset protection, understanding contract law, understanding leases, understanding landlord-tenant, all of those sort of things.
Man, I love it. What I love about this is that, this is something that that has, you're the first person that I've ever seen that actually is in academia that's actually teaching this in an accredited school. Like most of this stuff is, through folks like us. And so I'm glad to see that like you're able to maybe your students or the folks that attend are not, kids per se or younger people per se, but it seems like it's college. So it seems like your audience would be younger people. So you're getting to them younger to helping them understand this stuff at a younger age. Probably by and large, it's younger folks. But
I teach mainly juniors and seniors, and we have expanding programs. So we also have a master's program that we've recently promoted, and like we're located within the business school, and so we have one of the top business programs in the country, and we're looking to grow our program. And I think the most telling thing that I've experienced over the past 9 years with teaching this is that if they don't take this course in college, they're not getting this information. They're not understanding a basic principle of a consumable that everybody is going to have. And I think it's a real shame on our educational system in general that we don't teach people what a mortgage is. We don't teach people how to read and understand a lease, or, how to use real estate as an investment. And so what I have done is I've basically taken some of the things that I teach on campus, and I've made it into an online course that anybody can take, because I want real estate education to be available to the masses. And so I created a company called Inspire Wealth, and it stands for investing specifically in real estate. And
clever.
Awesome. You like that?
Love it.
So Inspire Wealth with Prof M. And it basically teaches people exactly what you need to look for when you're analyzing a property. How can you finance it? And really going into some of those core principles that, unfortunately, we find banks and realtors teaching people that, let's be honest, isn't necessarily the most effective way, or probably rational way to teach people these kind of things. And so I go through that. I actually give them sample contracts. I give them sample leases. I help them understand, if they're investing in a certain state or city, the type of regulations that they're going to have to look at. And so throughout the course, it basically helps people go from 0 to 100 in starting their investment journey and getting them prepared along the way.
Man, you've covered a lot. That's I tell you, if
I
that were
I have so many questions. None of them were on the script that we had, by the way.
I'm trying to say, I think if this were something that were offered when I was younger and really looking for that shiny object out there, like, what am I going to do with my life? If this was available, I mean, I probably wouldn't have dropped out of college. But that's amazing. That is awesome. I love that. Let's go back. Ken, did you have a question? You were going to say something here. Did you have a question for her?
I'm curious. I want to know how we're working in, because we're creative finance guys, right?
Yeah.
We do a lot of the sub two, obviously sub two empire, right? Kind of speaks for itself. One of our favorite acquisition strategies, but we do a lot. We actually have a new construction house that we just got on seller financing and all this stuff. So we do a lot of that on both the acquisition and the disposition, selling side of it. So I'm just curious, what specifically are you a proponent of, or are you teaching in your classes as it relates to creative financing? And then as a second question, after you go through all that, as a second question, as a follow-up is, and how do you work in the legal aspects of that, embed all that in there? Because that's the scariest thing that we hear from our students is like, well, that can't be legal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
We've only done hundreds of them, but yeah, you're right. It's not legal. So
yeah. Well, so first off, I actually buy my properties using creative financing too. And so, a big proponent, I own subject to, I own seller financing, I own lease options. And so I go through all of those kind of core fundamentals. We cover a little bit of DSCR. So if you are looking and somebody will seller finance and, they want a larger down payment than what you're comfortable with, how can you actually make the deal go forward? We get a DSCR loan to cover the remaining balance, and it doesn't go against your credit, because I think a lot of people, especially younger people, they don't have the established credit built up or the capital to be able to put down to acquire a property at 20%, right? So the things that I'm teaching, and especially I think sub 2 is probably the one that people think is not legal. Like, for some reason, that's the one where it's like, oh, well, but there's a mortgage. So how can somebody else own the property if there's still a mortgage in place? And I think the biggest thing to tell people is that, they are two very different documents. They're both in their own lanes. A deed is the transfer of ownership. A mortgage is a lien tied to that, and they are not connected. And so you can transfer one without transferring the other. Now, then we get the question, what about the due on sale clause, right?
Yes.
That's the one that everybody is so concerned about. And so technically, the due on sale clause can be exercised by a bank, unless you're in a VA loan or you have another specific type of loan that is completely transferable. But I tell people, banks are in the business of lending money. That is their lane. They are not in the business of real estate. They do not want to foreclose. They do not want to do all of this because it costs them more money. And so if a bank is continuing to receive payments on time, there's no reason for them to even look at a due on sale clause, because guess what? They're also not looking at these transfers by saying, oh, well, this property sold. Oh, I had no idea. That's not their business. Their business is finance, borrowing money, lending money.
Yeah, I have. I've been buying some. Actually, when I got into this in 2015, I tell the story. I had an 835 credit score. I do not have that credit score today, by the way. I mean, business owners, because I've had some ups and downs. But when I did,
haven't we all?
Yeah. But I was so determined to get into this business and just get out of that W-2 that I just went out. I did hire a mentor, and but I was really only a few weeks into this mentorship, and I got this property under contract. And once I got under contract, I was like, "Holy crap! How am I going to pay for? What am I going to do here?" Because I had an 835 credit score, but I had nothing. I had no money in I had nothing banked. Nothing. I didn't even have a retirement account at that point. And so I came across subject to. And so, kind of make a long story short, I ended up purchasing that property subject to. Got the lady moved out, found her a nice rental, and closed on that property. The very first deal I ever did, it was a $41,000 profit on this property, and I still didn't believe it. So the next two deals were subject to deals as well, and I just slowly started building this momentum. I did get a little sidetracked with a little bit of wholesaling,
Yes. Shiny object syndrome.
It happens to the best of us.
It happens.
A very tough business, by the way. But yeah, and so today I do have some bank financing in a few of my deals, only because they were either subject to or seller finance deals that had balloons, and so I had to get out of them. But I just sold one of those properties, so I'm 40. I have 40 doors right now, all of them seller finance or subject to, and I actually consider subject to a form of seller finance. But so yeah, I mean, I just love that, again, you are putting this information out there to people at a young age, so they don't have to go through this garbage. I think Ken retired, and he can tell you more about this. He retired from academia as well. Well, would you consider that academia, what you did, Ken?
Yeah, well, yeah, I retired from the institutions of academia. Yes, I was in charge of human resources. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just again, I think the key thing that I'm picking up here is, you're getting to folks, you're teaching folks at a young age, what it means to own an asset, and what it truly means to have long-term investment growth, and the best part about it all is it's done creatively. From my point of view, creative financing not only affords this opportunity, but it affords these opportunities at what I would consider unbeatable terms. Like, you cannot beat, I don't care what bank you're talking to, you're not going to be able to beat some of the terms that you can get through doing things creatively and thinking a little bit differently about how to get these deals done. So yeah, good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially, teaching people that you can do this no matter what stage of life that you're in, no matter what your financial, bank account looks like. And, with America having some of the highest amounts of debt on record right now, it's all about how can people transform some of that bad debt into good debt and start building long-term wealth, because we see this as a cycle, right? So it's like, oh, well, my parents did this, they worked for the man, for 30 plus years. And
Yes,
then
Mallory, we work for the man.
you
Yes.
work for the man, I guess, and you retire with a 401k, and like that's how you do it. And my goal is to have these students think differently, where yeah, you can have a career, but that doesn't mean that that's all you have. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a career, but there is also this work-life balance, because I have students that if they go into finance and they go to Wall Street, they're working 80 to 90 hours a week for the first 2 years, having no life, having no, outside. They're trying to save up as much money as they can to not have to do that. And it's like, what if there was an alternative? What if you could do something that you were able to work a job for reasonable hours? Because I don't want to work my life away. I want to be able to spend time with my kids. I want to spend time with my husband, my family, my friends, doing whatever I want, traveling. And, having a JOB or a W-2 really puts some damper on being able to live a life that you actually want to live.
Yeah, man, this is ringing so. It's like hitting me at the core a little bit. A couple of things about that is one, just the time factor, right? The time you're putting all this time into, some would say you're making someone else rich, or I think that's like a secondary of secondary importance, I guess. But it's mostly, I consider my time, and not knowing this, having a W-2 my entire life up until I got into this business, I didn't realize how valuable time is. And so really, Ken and I have talked about this many times on this podcast. Literally waking up in the morning, and as soon as my feet hits the floor, I go into planning mode. What am I going to do today that's going to, number one, save me time, so that I can do things that I love to do, and going to get me to the financial goals that I need to get. I mean, that is literally how my brain has been rewired. But also, I think the aspect of the W-2, and I think we got to talk maybe for a second about the quote. Do I want to call it investing that we do while we have a W-2, the IRAs and the 401ks and all that stuff? I mean, I get the importance of them. For people that maybe don't have the entrepreneurial.
It's a safety net. That's essentially what it is. Is that people, they get into their comfort zone, and you stay in your lane, and you don't exit that lane, and that's what you were taught. That's what you've been told to do. Put away as much money into your retirement account, have the company match, all of those things. Like, that's what kids are told.
Yeah. So, and if we go back and look at let's talk about, financial crisis 2008. I mean, and that wasn't just a housing crisis. That's what a lot of people don't understand. It wasn't just a housing crisis. Mm-hmm. It was an entire sector of the markets that took a tank. So those folks that had those IRAs and had these funds that were managed, they were just decimated. I mean, billions and trillions of dollars just disappeared literally overnight out of these funds. And so now we've got door knockers. We've got the job as a door knocker at Walmart. I mean, it's I think, I'm not the brightest bulb on the planet, but it seems to me that if I have something that I can walk up to, and I can touch, and I can feel, and I can see it, even if the value of that tangible asset has dropped, I still have something there. There's something there. Mm-hmm. I can still figure out a way to monetize it. Where, obviously paper does not provide that for you. And so I am fully invested in hard assets. I don't own one single paper stock. Um, and it's not. It's not demeaning. I'm not trying to demean what people that buy paper stocks at all, because I think it's a good hedge, but it just wasn't my path. It just wasn't for more than just the reason of desire. It just wasn't my path. So anyway, I'm taking up too much of the time.
I'm curious. So Jeff's an example of all in on real estate and hard assets. And most of the people, as you said, Mallory, are all in on the paper, the financial, the Wall Street, the 401ks, the all that, my IRA. And I guess I always have a hard time in my own mind figuring this out, because it always seemed like common sense told me to be in the middle. Like I should have all of this stuff. Like my motto is to diversify my cash flows. So one of my cash flows is a pension. I retired when I was 45 because of real estate, another one of my cash flows, right? And then I do have mutual fund assets. I do have managed funds. I have gold and silver. I have real estate assets. I have all this. It's like, because when you're going to your financial advisor and they say, well, we need to diversify your portfolio, we need to have some in the world markets and in Europe and all of this stuff. It's like, well, why the hell wouldn't I want to do that with every type of asset? Why would I be limiting myself to do all this? So that's always been kind of my mindset. And listening to you talk is just like, I must be such an outlier to all that, because you're right. Looking back, because I retired, I started as a teacher. I was a high school science and math teacher, and then I made my way to human resources when I retired out of education. We're here in the St. Louis metro area, by the way, in the St. Louis area. And so it's just like, I watched all this in education, and you're so right. People just don't. They're told this is the way, like indoctrinated into this is the way, and it's not a bad way necessarily, but there's so many other ways we don't even think about. And I guess that's what bothers me the most about today's society, but about today's mindset, right? We got to change a mindset. And so I'm glad you're trying to do that, like one student at a time.
Yeah. And I think like 2 points, Ken, to what you said. One, financial advisors are, I have to figure out
it's
my
okay.
words carefully.
It's okay.
All right.
Let's just say they're on commission. Let's just say that.
They are paid to sell products that their company, can offer. And so when you go to your financial advisor, they're not looking to help you diversify your portfolio. They're helping you make money so they can make money. But even still, if you lose money, they're still getting paid commission. Yep. And so a lot of the financial institutes, I have a real hard time with that. But those are the people that 95% of America trusts. They trust their financial advisor to help them plan their future. And the problem with that is when people put all of their money aside into a 401k and an IRA, essentially they're planning on retiring poor. They are not building up tax savings advantages that you get with tangible, hard assets like real estate. They're not looking at it as, okay, what happens if I live to be 90? Because we're now seeing people live longer lives. Is this 401k, is it going to suffice? Am I going to have enough money if I get put into a nursing home or if I have, health issues? Like, people aren't thinking about that. And the problem is they're like, well, the government will take care of me, And our government is in so much debt right now that we can't even figure out what's happening today, let alone what's going to happen in 10, 20, 50 years. And people have to now consider, what am I going to do to better myself, and not worry about what's going to change in the political spectrum, what's going to change with, policies or anything. And that's, to your point, mindset has to be the shift. You have to start thinking, how can I better myself, not how the government can help me. And it has to start somewhere. And that's why I like teaching the younger people.
I have never heard someone in academia explain that the way you explain it. So honestly, that
was very good, by the way.
That is unheard of. Have you ever heard a professor ever tell you that when you were in school?
No,
anything
no,
like never.
no.
So I think, man, again, congratulations. That's just you're doing important work. I think it's very important. It's just like like in the high schools now, we're getting away from the core principles and the core basics of real education. And I don't know. I just think that you're just doing great work. I'm very pleasantly surprised meeting you today. So,
Well, honestly, like one of my goals is to get my course into high schools
Yes,
and
I was just gonna
try
say
to
it needs
get
to be
them.
younger. Yep.
A lot of high schools and a lot of states are now requiring a specific level of financial literacy. And, that financial literacy is really where we're lacking in this country. And we're not teaching young people how to properly invest their money, how to properly save their money. Because when people say, oh, I'm just going to put it in a savings account, well, now your money is losing value because inflation is rising beyond what a savings account is actually going to offer you. So you need to figure out, and people just aren't taught that. And so without us actually getting to kids at a younger level, teaching them the basics of money, teaching them the basics of financial literacy, we're going to continue to see this pattern of people continuing to get into bad debt, wanting help from the government, having, these conversations where this is why we're in trillions of dollars of debt within our country.
yeah, yeah, and they have what bolsters this whole thing is they have very good. They use two things. They use very good marketing campaigns or fear. One of those two things, or both, or a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a perpetual. It's just a perpetual cycle. It's just, I don't know. They're very good at what they do. They're very good at what they do. That's all I can say.
It's propaganda. I mean, it's
Yeah.
basically what happened during the Cold War, and that it's still happening today. And without people actually having solid education and understanding alternatives and how they can diversify effectively, they're just going to continue along the same path that they've been going. And it's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious, Mallory, of the students you have, because we hear a lot of things we see. I don't watch the news, or any of that. I haven't for years for obvious reasons, because as you said, it's nothing but propaganda bullshit. So I don't bother to watch any of that. But I'm curious firsthand, the college students that you see now, like the generation that you have there now, do they want home ownership? Because I hear or see a lot of things there, or a lot of talk about, well, they just want to rent. They're living with their parents till they're 30, which I think is more commonly true, but I don't know that that's really a generalization for the entire group, that entire age group. But what are you seeing? Do they think they can own a home? Because prices, as you just said, this inflation and the home ownership and the interest rates and all that stuff, it's becoming harder and harder. And when they pick a silly college degree to get, their basket weaving degree isn't gonna, net them $150,000 a year when they get out, and no one bothered to tell them that, right? So yeah. I'm just curious to see what's that mindset like for the students that you have in class. And maybe that's bad because they're in real estate for a reason, so they already see the value. But just curious.
Yeah, I mean, so the students that I see are business students, and so they're very much business driven, and they're probably the anomaly compared to like the whole population of students overall. But my students specifically do want to own real estate. They want to own their own property. A lot of them want to do house hacking when they graduate, and so another form of creative financing for them. And for me, I want to educate them on the differences, because in some aspects, renting is better than buying, depending on the market that you're in. But that doesn't mean you still can't be investing in an alternative market that's going to produce income. So if you're going to be moving to New York City, the likelihood of you buying a property in New York is very slim. However, you could then buy a rental property in Ohio that you are creating cash flow to help offset whatever rent you have to pay in New York. So those are some of the alternatives. But all in all, people, the students I am teaching do ultimately want to be homeowners. They want to be investors. They want to have that passive income, but understanding, some of the pros and cons to it.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Ohio. I got a bunch of buddies that, well, I got one out in Arizona. I got a couple in California. They all invest in Ohio. Ohio's a great flyover state. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's much like our area too. We call this cash flow heaven here in St. Louis. This is
Ohio's not my favorite state for obvious reasons, but when it comes to investing in real estate, it has very affordable housing, and you're able to produce cash flows where in some of these markets we're not seeing anything being able to pencil at all. So
Yeah.
Ohio is one of those markets that I definitely see a lot of growth and potential in.
Yeah.
Same thing here in St. Louis. A lot of reasonable rental properties here in St. Louis that you can
With
make
very
the
similar.
rent far exceed what you can pick the property up for.
Yeah. Sometimes we. Sorry for interrupting you. But sometimes I'll be talking to some of my friends, like particularly I got a couple, well, I'll bring up Arizona again, but got a couple in Arizona. And I've asked them before, because I have a minimum cash flow requirement on every property that I have. And we have a little bit different model. I don't really do rentals. We sell it, finance everything. But I have a minimum cash flow requirement. And when I bring up what that number is to some of the folks in the Phoenix area,
Yeah.
they're like, holy cow, you can do that in St. Louis. I'm like, every day, all day, every day.
Every day. Yep.
Yeah. I do want to switch gears if we can for just a minute. I want to start tapping into some of your into your legal mind if we can. And I want to ask you, obviously we love the creative finance side. I've built an entire life on the creative side. And we've built this platform and everything. I would love to know, and this might be a very broad, very broad question. On the creative side, what would you say are some of the most prevalent or in your face kind of legal hurdles that you see? Whether we're talking subject to or some sort of I don't know, something kind of some of these off the wall things maybe that are not your standard type of deals that are being done. Like, I don't know, maybe just generalize a little bit and give us the big ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think with, subject to, obviously we talked about the due on sale clause. And so that's obviously going to be something to consider. No matter which form you're going after, you want to make sure that your contract is ironclad and, the contract is going to control. And I highly suggest people having a team of professionals. And so before you get into any of these, like having an attorney, having an accountant, those are going to be some of the core key people that you need on your team, because unfortunately, things go wrong. And I try to teach people to prepare for the worst case rather than the best case. And, having somebody in your best interest kind of overlook things is great. And for me, most of my properties have tenants. And so understanding how to properly screen tenants is a big one, and how to manage the property. And so if you are going to self-manage, making sure that you understand all of the legal requirements within your specific jurisdiction. I've had people who wanted to do short-term rentals, and then they see local regulations that are now preventing them from being able to actually have that property as a short-term rental. Other people that want to have, we'll call them like boarding houses where, they're renting by the room. Again, local regulations kind of can dictate whether or not you can do that. And so understanding zoning, understanding, just general ordinances is a key part in no matter what aspect of real estate you're getting in. But creatively, if you're, putting your pro forma as a short-term rental, and that's how you're underwriting it, and then you find out that legally you can't have it as a short-term rental, that's clearly something that you're going to need to evaluate. So yeah. I don't know, Jeff, did that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, it warmed my heart. I am the documents like nerd guy. Being in charge of human resources, I did a lot of employee negotiations and master contracts and obviously contracts with our teachers and all those sorts of things. So I'm like, yes, it all starts with the documents, right?
Yeah.
I call it the CYA, the cover your assets
Mhm.
document. That's the piece of it. So I was like,
He
there was a reason I knew I wanted her on the podcast.
yeah, he literally, a lot can be said about whether an individual, an entrepreneur, either takes on a partner or does not. And I've always been of the ilk of, I don't want a partner. Partners can be, they can be, it's a marriage. It's a marriage. And Ken and I have been doing this now together. Ken was a private lender of mine, by the way, before we ever joined up to do this. But if you're going to choose a partner, I am terrible. I mean, I'm very resourceful. I'm not gonna. I will say that, but when it comes to the fine details, it bores me to death. I just cannot. I don't have the attention span for it. And someone like him, I'm telling you, anytime something ever comes up, we're getting ready to do this deal in Florida with a student, and man, I'm so glad. I'm so glad because this deal probably wouldn't get. There's a lot going on. That's a land trust state, so we're trying to figure out how we're going to set this trust up and all this stuff. And man, he's just I mean, the dude's amazing when it comes to this stuff. Like, it's true. I'm not,
That you need somebody who is going to offset. Yeah.
100%.
Yes, but it's a matter of like Jeff's one of the best I've ever seen it, like going in with the seller and coming out with contract signing. Like, you know what I mean? Not my strength, right? My strength is giving him the contract, go in there and get signed. That's my strength.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I want to give you. You've probably heard this business model before, but I'm gonna give it to you, and I would like, if you wouldn't mind, a little bit of maybe there's some things that we're missing. Maybe there are, because we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
So I want to give you this model, and if you could maybe give us some pointers, make sure we're doing some things, and we'll check the boxes. We'll make sure that maybe there's something we haven't thought of, and we get a little bit of free legal advice. Is that all right with you?
I just want to have a disclosure here that I
Yes.
am an attorney, but I do not represent anybody, and so this
Thank
is
you.
not legal advice. This
We're
is
not
legal
attorneys and
guidance.
we don't represent anybody except ourselves. It's perfect. It'll all work out.
So I'm going to lay this out for you. What we do, generally speaking, and this is really what we teach. So this will be really good for anyone watching this that decides maybe to join us later. We buy primarily on seller finance and subject to. So the way that transaction usually looks, as you know, if we're talking to the right sellers, they're usually going to be pretty motivated. And there's usually a problem, underlying financial issue. Mainly for us, it's going to be arrears or repairs on the property, what have you. So what we do is we pay those arrears, and we take the property subject to. Then we turn around and we seller finance those properties on wraps. Now, depending upon whether we want to give legal title or equitable title, we'll do an agreement for deed, or we'll do a full-blown mortgage wrap. So somewhere within that model, what would you? Is there anything? Can you just hit the highlights on that and just tell us if we're doing anything wrong here?
Yeah, no, I think what you're doing makes a lot of sense. There are certain states that it makes not owning the property advantageous, especially in states like Pennsylvania. Like here, we have a very high transfer tax cost. And so every time you buy, you pay that transfer tax. Every time you sell, you pay that transfer tax. So I think the wraps are a great way to kind of help mitigate some of those costs there. Again, I think too, the key point is you want to make sure the contract is ironclad. And when you are paying back those arrears, that it is clear that that is part of the compensation for purchasing this property. And so in every single document that I have, the sellers have to initial every single line item, because I think that's really important, especially in the eyes of the court, when they don't know whether or not there is an educated seller, and they're selling on duress. And so were you showing them something that maybe they didn't understand? And so going through it point by point, having them literally initial, saying that they understand that this is exactly what they are signing over, this is what they are agreeing to, is a real key point, and especially something that will help be upheld when or if you have to actually take legal action. And I always tell them before they sign anything, you have the right to have an attorney review this. You have the right to, take this to your accountant. We're not pressuring you, and just making sure that at the end of the day, it should be a win on both sides, right? And a lot of these people, like you said, they're going through hard times. They, lost their job. They had a family member pass. They, are just getting behind, and they're just looking for a way out. But you always want to consider, okay, if things hit the fan and everything goes wrong, I want to make sure I'm protecting myself and knowing that this person is making an informed decision and completely understanding exactly what it is that they're signing. Now, also, you want to make sure that there are no state laws that are going to affect whatever the property is, because most of the time that's where jurisdiction is going to fall. And so if you're doing these properties in Florida, to your point, it's a land trust state, you want to make sure that what you are actually doing is legal in that particular market. And so again, that's where having an attorney on your team, helping understand exactly what the do's and don'ts are in that particular area, key point.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about, what I think you're saying is transparency. It's ultimate transparency, being straight up front, and that is not only are you protecting yourself legally, but we often say, especially in the case of a subject to or a seller finance deal, this is a long term, because we don't promise that we're going to pay off their mortgages. I mean, we never put that on paper, because obviously we just don't know what the next year is going to bring. We have no idea. So we don't offer that. But you're building a long-term relationship with these folks potentially. And, I think having that transparency right up front, like you're saying, literally sign off or initial every single line if you have to. And I will acquiesce. Ken is, because sometimes I look at some of the stuff that Ken, that throws out here. I'm like, Jesus, dude, come on, man! Like these people, this is crazy. But it's very good advice. I think it's really, really good advice. And if anything, like I said, it's you do not want to have a seller who you are in a relationship with for the next 10 years, because that's what it will be. You do not want to have them on your bad side. And I have stories. Let me tell you that I have stories.
Yeah.
I've told these stories on this podcast before, and man, it's so I've learned my lesson that way, not being completely transparent with the seller. And I think this is the perfect way to establish that trust and rapport and relationship. So
yeah,
and we have all those checklists, and especially the subject to, just like you said. It's like, we need you to understand this. We need you to understand this. We need you to understand this. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, people have to look at a contract as an evolving living document, because what one deal brings might spark something that you're like, oh, I should probably include that in my next contract. And so it's going to be something. And I mean, even me, I've been learning and understanding, oh, okay, I should have worded it this way versus that way. And, adding this extra clause or adding this extra, stipulation, because again, it's going to be, you may start with a contract, but in 5 years, that contract might look completely different because of all the lessons you've learned along the way. And so I think it's important for people to know that what one deal might bring can offer a change or an addition to your next deal.
Yeah, I mean, and also let's be real. A lot of a lot of these contracts, the way that they're written, you know, a lot of attorneys don't go to school to learn the law. They go to school to learn how to deal with litigation and deal with things in court, and it's kind of like, do you have another way that you can interpret what this sentence is or what this means? So not to disparage attorneys, but
No, I mean it's true. I mean, the whole profession, like, we're taught how to read the law, but we're not taught how to necessarily apply the law. And so I think that's a big, difference in, you're learning as you go too. And I would be a big proponent for law schools to shift their model where the third year you're actually going out and practicing law. You're actually going and, living and breathing in it so that you have at least some level of experience versus just sitting in the classroom, because that's not going to teach you how to think like a lawyer. It's going to, teach you how to understand the law, but not necessarily apply it.
It's interesting. Very interesting.
And I could literally talk to you all day about this stuff.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end too, but I have one logistical question, then maybe just a general question about advice for, real estate investors, budding entrepreneur real estate investors. I'm curious, just kind of a logistical question. We have weekly coaching calls with our students that we have in here, and so they're looking at acquiring properties, and I say, okay, well, what's your exit strategy on this? What are you wanting to do? They say, oh, well, I'm going to buy and hold that. Okay, is that going to be a straight rental, or is it going to be like our model? Are you going to sell or finance that? And I was like, well, I'm not sure what to do. What do you recommend? Not to put you on the spot, but what would you recommend? Because obviously, if it's a straight rental property, you get more of a tax write-off, right? You get better tax incentives if you're the owner. But if you do it on an agreement for deed, a contract for deed, like almost all the states allow you to do that to an extent, except Texas, right? And so that also has some tax benefits, not as much, but then you're not a landlord. You're really a note lord because you created the note inside the agreement for deed. So what's your opinion about being straight rental projects? I thought I heard you say you have straight rental properties, or doing your seller finance model like Jeff hates being a landlord. He only does the contract for deed or a wrap mortgage, depending on the situation in there too. So what's your opinion about that? What would you recommend, and why? Maybe if you have straight rentals, why do you do that as opposed to seller financing some of them?
Yeah, I think, it's ultimately going to come down to each of the students' risk tolerance and, what sort of time commitment that they have, because, people out there could potentially have a career and they're looking to have this as just like an added bonus. So I hate to use this answer, but it depends. And it's just like
a good attorney answer, by the way, Mallory. I appreciate that.
It depends. It also depends on their tax brackets too, because if you have a high income earner and you are looking to offset those taxes, then yes, it's more advantageous for you to be the owner and to have those continual write-offs, maybe even declaring yourself as a real estate professional. So I think it's all going to come down to the person, their risk tolerance, what they're looking to do. Is it tax advantages? Is it cash flow? Is it passive investing? Is it more active investing? And honestly, what's happening in the market that they're investing in? And so those are all going to be big things that I would say to look at.
All right.
Excellent.
Awesome. So we're going to have to wrap this up here real quick.
Pretty quick. Can we just do one more question just for everybody too?
Come on, Ken.
What's the one piece of advice you would give to a new real estate investor, someone new or someone coming to your class and saying, okay, I'm going to have me 50 rental properties by the time I'm 30 or whatever? Like, what's a great piece of advice you give your students?
Find a good mentor. Find somebody who's done it. Find somebody who knows the ups and the downs, because being told things on YouTube and other things where you're only seeing the positives is not going to help you. Awesome. And make sure that mentor is a legitimate mentor.
Yeah, that's the
real people doing real deals. Yeah, we got you. We got you.
Mallory, where can we send folks to either look at your courses or I mean, obviously they can go to the Penn website. I mean,
You could go to Penn State. You could come and be a student at Penn State.
Right.
But if that's not looking like an option, inspirewealtheducation.com is where I have all of my course information and my podcast and other information that I'm providing with people. I'm on all the socials, so I'm actively posting. I like to create events. I actually just had Robert Kiyosaki up here with a bunch of his Rich Dad advisors. And so we had a big panel event here, looking to have, other notable speakers. And yeah, that's how you can get me.
Awesome.
Excellent. I just posted that in the chat for people too, by the way, that they see that you're.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot for just 1 second. I would love to either you tell me to go pound sand or you give me an affirmative. I'd love to have you back on. So there's a couple of things that I really want to talk about on the seller finance side, and I really want to talk about whole life insurance with you. If you have any kind of insights into whole life, so if you would,
IRAs, and
I'll tell you, you don't have to answer that. We'll be in touch with you. I'd love
good.
to have you back on, and you're really, really great meeting you and great having you on. It's been
thank you guys. Yeah, likewise.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure, Mallory. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, guys, that's going to do it. We are at our time limit, so we appreciate you joining us this week. And Ken, you have any closing arguments?
Nope.
See what I did there? You see what I did?
Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Now Mallory's got me thinking all day. So I'm gonna be thinking about stuff all day now.
I'm telling you, she fired me up. I'm ready to go.
That was good. Yep, that was great.
See you guys.